there's a certain point where she's had enough. Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
we're ready to go.
Okay, great.
Let's stop there when the boys can.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the public safety meeting, March 22nd, 2021. We do have a quorum here today. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion put forward by Supervisor Frazier, second by Supervisor McGowan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll get into...
Wait, am I on this one?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
I thought so. I was waiting for Amanda. I'm looking at my list. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. Okay, we'll move on to the action agenda in new business.
Oh, I am.
For your easy reading in your packet, there is a table of organization that you can look at. That we're not going to take any action specifically on that table today. In your packet also is the individuals that we're proposing to reappoint to the EMS board and the Fire Administrative Board. So we'll move on with Resolution 1, requesting to appoint and reappoint members to the Warren County Fire Advisory Board for the term of May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. There are no changes to that appointed list. So is there a motion to bring that to the floor?
Someone.
Supervisor McGowan,
I'll
seconded
second.
by Supervisor Shepler. Is there any discussion on those appointments? Is there a motion to, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. Item 2, same thing, resolution requesting to appoint and reappoint members to the Warren County EMS Advisory Board for the term May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. There are no changes to that advisory board. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor? Motion put forward by Supervisor McGowan,
I'll second the motion.
seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, a resolution requesting to approve revisions to the Warren County Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. This is a plan that can be modified on an annual basis. It was sent out to all the committee members to include their comments on the emergency medical plan. If there's any questions, I would ask Anne Marie Mason to come to the podium and answer those questions. But first and foremost, I'd like to see if there's a motion to bring it to the floor. Mr. Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Shepler. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4 is a resolution to request to fill a vacancy position, emergency services coordinator. Starting salary is $48,995. The individual that was in that position has resigned recently, and we're looking to backfill that position with a starting salary of $48,995. There's a motion to bring this request to the floor. Supervisor McGowan put the motion forward, seconded by Supervisor Shepler. Any discussions or questions? Mr. McGowan?
Yeah, this is for Ann. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. How's it been going without the coordinator?
It's been going well without the coordinator there. There's definitely a hole that we need to fill, especially moving ahead with some restrictions being lifted on COVID. We're going to be out training more, working with community partners again, and starting to drill again. So it's definitely a position we need to fill going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of filling this vacancy?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is there information for discussion and review. I don't have anything other than in your packet today for your reading is detailed job responsibilities that were included in your packet from the fire coordinator and the EMS coordinator. Okay, referrals and pending, there are none. Privilege of the floor. Anybody would like to comment on the Office of Emergency Services agenda for today? Mr. Lehman, any comment from the public?
Hello, Chairman Diamond. We do not have any public comment as of now.
Great, thank you. That concludes the Office of Emergency Services, and we'll roll right into the public safety aspect of our agenda. Is Sheriff LaFar with us today?
Yes, good morning.
Morning, thank you. Okay, welcome. I would just want to welcome everybody to the Sheriff's agenda. We do have a quorum to here today. I'd like to ask the committee meeting approval. I'd like to ask the approval of the minutes of the prior committee meeting, which we had one in mid-March in regards to the police reinvention and that we conducted, and it was approved on March 19th. So, moving on with our action agenda. Item 1, to enter into agreement with Lexpol for an annual subscription allowing 24/7 access to the Police One Academy and Corrections One Academy online training courses. Is there a motion to bring that to the floor? Supervisor McGowan, Supervisor Shepler. Any discussions? I'll call that question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 2 is an amendment, existing grant to accept additional funds from New York State Stop DWI Foundation Program for years 2020 through years 2021. It's actually a $4,000 grant that we've received and been appropriated to the county, so we have to receive that in. Is there a motion to bring this resolution to the floor? Supervisor McGowan, Supervisor Shepler seconded it. Any discussions around this grant? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to amend the county budget to increase the Stop DWI program budget by $4,000 to reflect the additional funding. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor? Supervisor McGowan,
Second.
seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion around this resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is item 4, to enter an agreement with the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Services to procure food products for Warren County Correctional Facilities inmates. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor? Supervisor Shepler, second by Supervisor McGowan. Any discussions? I just want to point out that it's a 5-year agreement totaling $126,114, and it starts at $24,234, and the sheriff seems to be very happy with the services that we're getting at this point. So I call for the question. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 5, to adopt 2 Warren County Sheriff's Office policies relating to the administration of leave accrual, and the Family Medical Leave Act. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion? Supervisor Shepler, we put the motion forward, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Any discussions around this?
Is there any change to this we've passed?
Sheriff, there is a question in regards to the policies that you have here. Is there any change to the existing policies that were going forward?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the question. In 2019, it was brought to Sheriff York attention from HR that our sheriff's office, we have established practices, but we did not have a policy that was codified for the Family and Medical Leave Act, as well as nothing in our leave policy that relates to accruals and leave carryover and paid administrative leave. It was asked that we codify our practices, and that's exactly what we did. So it's not that it's a change in our practice, it's just now outlined in our policies. The reason that there are two is we have separate divisions, corrections and public safety.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Sheriff Law? Okay, I'll ask the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is to amend the county budget to reflect the appropriate revenues and expense codes for the first half of 2020 through 2021 for school resource officer agreements. There's a motion to bring this to the floor.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Shepler. Any discussions around this? I do have one question, and maybe Supervisor Garrity could ask. Warrensburg is still not interested in being involved with this? Okay.
I don't know that.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay.
I'll check though and get back to you.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions in regards to any other discussion around this particular resolution? I'll ask the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda would be to fill, items 7 through 12 is to backfill positions as a result of retirements. I don't believe that we're adding new positions at this point. We're just backfilling, but the sheriff is here to answer any questions in regard to this. Amanda, can we approve all of these resolutions at once, or do we can?
You can do it in one motion, yes.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
So I'd like to put motion forward.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Shepler and Frazier. Okay, I'd like to bring this to the floor for discussion purposes. Anybody have any questions for Sheriff LaFar in regards to these appointments, these vacancies that are going to occur?
I only have one comment. You mentioned retirement, but only 3 are retirement, right? The rest of them are promotions.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve these requests to backfill?
You do have a.
Oh, we did that. I'm sorry. All in favor of backfilling the positions?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, discussion items. Is there any discussion items? This referral, Amanda, is a part-time patrol officer to process, submit, and civil fingerprints to New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services. What's that, a referral to another committee?
No, that was something that was discussed previously,
Okay,
and the committee chose not to act on it, so it's being carried as a pending item.
okay. Do we then try to encourage dialogue at this point, or we just?
You can ask the sheriff. The sheriff had wanted to create this new position
Okay.
to do fingerprinting, so you would have to ask the sheriff if that's still something he needs, or.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff LaFar, under pending items, it was your request to fill this position for somebody to do the details of the fingerprinting. Do you want to discuss that?
Yes, when we proposed this originally, clearly for us, we know it's the right thing to do for the county. I wasn't sure why it was a referral item because we didn't request it, but now Amanda makes it clear that it just carries over as old business until it's resolved. We still are of the same position, and in fact, one of the supervisors reached out to the undersheriff recently and was inquiring how a friend or family member of theirs could come to the sheriff's office and be fingerprinted, and I think was a little surprised when they learned we don't provide this service. we still have the same position that we could provide a safe, consistent, quality service to our residents, not asking people to go to a motel room one week, to a location in Ticonderoga the next, and down to Wilton the next. We do not see any downside in having this implemented in the sheriff's office. Initially, we were trying to pin down numbers. I think it will be a little slow to get started. Once people learn and the Pistol Permit Bureau starts sending out correspondences, letting the public know where to go and how to get fingerprinted, I think it would be a fantastic option for our residents.
Any questions for the sheriff? Supervisor McGowan?
Thank you. Yeah, Sheriff, it's more than just pistol permits. I believe, you know, in the way that today's society is going, you know, certain jobs and stuff like that. I know we talked about this before, and I think it is a services that is due our taxpayers, to our county, and I was all for it, you know, before. So I'm glad to see that it still stayed in referrals and that, and it's up to the chairman of what he would like to do. But I feel we should move forward on this.
Okay, Chairwoman Seaver.
Thank you, Chairman Diamond. I'm just circling back, remembering when we had talked about this several months ago, and I think one of the issues were that we had community agencies that were also doing this type of a service, and as our sheriff mentions, perhaps it is a way to provide public service to our community members as other sheriff's offices do. But at that point in time, we needed additional information on what the cost is that other agencies are offering, what's the hours that they're, you know, what hours are they serving, where would we be filling that gap, if in fact it would generate enough revenue to pay for itself. And there were a lot of just some unanswered questions that still needed additional data. And I think that's why we left it on a referral item, hoping that, you know, and then of course COVID hit. But maybe now's a great time if the sheriff would, or the undersheriff, work on more of a proposal to come forward that would show us that demand and how we would be able to be self-sustaining and where that need is, because I certainly also don't want to duplicate efforts that are already going on in our communities. That's my only concern.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My suggestion to the committee today would be as to ask the sheriff to develop a plan that could indicate that there's no cost to the taxpayers, and that he share that plan with us through discussion at the next meeting, and then if we decide to advance that, we can do that at that point in time. So, Sheriff, I'd like to ask you to put together some answers so we can discuss this in greater detail at our next public safety meeting. Does that work for you? Today would actually be the third meeting we're discussing this. At the first meeting, that request was made. At the second meeting, we provided that data. The Pistol Permit Bureau roughly has around 400 applicants that are fingerprinted each year. They receive more applications, but a lot of people receive them, don't turn them back in. But the actual number of people who are fingerprinted, it's roughly right around 400. Then the county has nurses and other employees that require fingerprinting. We would be able to handle all of the county employees as well at a savings for the county, as well as school teachers, people applying for licenses with the State Liquor Authority. Those numbers are a little harder to pin down. It was left with us that it would be a part-time position, and it's really as needed. Like I said in the beginning, until people realize what we offer, we may only need to have an employee here 1, maybe 2 days a week. I would think as this grows, it's going to likely move into 3, maybe 4 days a week. And I would just ask that the board trust in us to know that we're not going to have a part-time employee sitting in our sheriff's office with no work. They could have a number that people could call. They could schedule appointments on given days. If there aren't any appointments on a certain day, then that per diem or part-time employee simply would not come into work. We had it arranged so that we would set up an escrow account with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, and we would pay and take care of the financial aspects of that with them directly. And the county would roughly make just over $30 per transaction, and that would be more than enough to pay for a part-time employee. There would be actually
a profit if they did 1 per hour, because the part-time employee is much less than $30 per hour. To try to pin down to stronger or more accurate numbers than that, the only one that we really can say for certain would be pistol permits, and it's right around 400 per year, but I know that would be far more with all the others. As far as the other business, it is correct, there is a private entity that is doing this, but they're doing it, they have a home location in Warren County, they have a location in Essex and Saratoga, and they provide the service regionally. Again, we're focused on our residents. We want to take care of our residents first and make sure that they're not having to travel or go to an uncomfortable location to get their fingerprints processed.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I've got a question for Amanda on Robert's Rules of Order. I'd like to participate in this dialogue. Do I have to step away from the chairmanship to have an opinion?
That's my understanding, Mr. Wood, but I would defer to Mary.
I have to step away?
Yeah, pursuant to our own rules, actually, you would have to step down and appoint another chair.
Okay. I'd like to appoint Frank Thomas as the chairperson.
No, it has someone on your committee.
Oh, on my committee, I'm sorry. Let's see, who do we have? Supervisor Scheffler.
I'm your
Oh, you're, okay,
I'm your-
Brad. You're the vice
smaller
chair?
kahuna.
Okay.
You don't have to use
All right,
me.
no. I'll go with my vice chair. Okay, so officially, Supervisor McGowan is going to be the chair for this discussion. Sheriff, I know when we talked about this in the beginning, I had some reservations about competing with the private sector in regards to this. You mentioned earlier that we would, it would be a part-time position, maybe 2 days a week, till we got up to speed in regards to, if in fact we do. My question would be to you is, can we try to find someone in your office to do this if the individual's only going to come in 1 day a week or possibly 2 days a week, just till while we ramp up and get the information out publicly that we are now doing this, because I'm concerned about not only the cost to the department, but competing with the private sector.
Certainly, the undersheriff and I have talked about that. The only option that we would have, and we're coming into a dangerous time to do this, would be to pull a uniformed police officer off the road who would, for this time would not be providing police service. Our support staff here, our administrative staff, we would not have the manpower right now to dedicate to that. It's something we could do, but I would be reluctant, and I would strongly discourage us from taking an officer out of a car and putting him here in an office to do fingerprints.
There's no reason, there isn't anybody in the administrative offices that could pick this responsibility up?
I would think it's safe to say that we used to have the service that provides the fingerprints now, the private entity. They worked out of our sheriff's office 1 day a week for several years. And for a great number of occasions, they worked right out of the conference room in our admin suite. And for that entire day, the person who was assigned to that duty for the private business, it was a revolving door. There was somebody in our conference room the entire day. We don't have, I wish we did, an extra administrative purpose that we could dedicate to do this on that type of a basis. I'm confident in knowing, having communications with the Pittsburgh Bureau and knowing the volume of work that they're receiving, that we would have somebody to dedicate, but I'm sorry, we just don't have it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I go back to the acting chairperson. Oh,
Before you do that, can I make a comment?
yes, Supervisor Driscoll and Supervisor Bramer.
Am I back to Chairman Diamond now, or?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm wondering if there's a need to create a position, whether it be full-time or part-time. Health services employs a number of per diem nurses as needed. Is there any rule or reason why this couldn't be a per diem position, maybe a retired sheriff officer or someone with law enforcement experience?
Supervisor Driscoll, thank you. That's exactly what we're proposing and what we had originally asked for.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Brammer.
Thank you. Well, I guess that was kind of my question too. This says a part-time patrol officer. Isn't there another kind of administrative position that we could add as a per diem rather than a part-time patrol officer? And do we already have someone through Trish? Did you go through Trish Nenninger to create a new title, that kind of thing?
We have several part-time officers now who work in our Marine unit, and depending on where they retired from, they're either a patrol officer part-time or a special patrol officer. So we wouldn't need to create a new title. It was just the way that it was worded in the request for the agenda. You know, we're going to start hiring seasonal employees, part-time employees, retired police officers to work on our boats this summer. Some will return from years past, others may not, so we'll just backfill vacancies. We would do this exact same thing, but we just need the approval to have the position in place to do this exact service. So it's not a need for a new position or a new title, it's just, I guess, the way that it was worded for the agenda.
Do you, Sheriff, what is the dollar amount that you're going to be paying this person?
I believe our part-time patrol officers are making roughly $20 an hour, thereabouts.
And do you already have that amount in the budget until you make revenue to fill the expense?
We would. We have a part-time code for part-time officers, so we would. But this is going to get a little complicated because I think, and we'd have to work with Rob Lynch, the money that comes in through the fingerprinting is going to go into a specific account, and then I don't know how it would work as far as the budget transfer to make sure that it goes from that account into the part-time code. So if we did this on a trial basis for 3 to 6 months, we would have plenty of money in that part-time code that we would not go in the red.
No, go ahead.
Supervisor Shepler, do you have any questions or
Thank you, no.
comments? Supervisor Frazier?
I don't understand why we don't just move forward. The sheriff has answered our questions. Certainly $20 an hour is not a big amount to pay someone if he's doing it per diem, but we kind of sit here like we do with a lot of things, and 6 months from now, the poor sheriff is still going to be waiting for us to make a decision. So to me, it seems like he's pretty much laid out what he wants to do, how he's going to pay for it. So he's kind of looking for us to just give the approval, but I don't know, maybe.
No, thank you for your comment.
Mm-hmm.
Chairwoman Seaborn.
Supervisor Frazier, you have a good point about the fact this has been talked about for a long time. My concern is just that we're back at the beginning where we had the same questions and the same information that was presented before. The issue of creating or looking at a part-time position, when we discussed this, we asked him, our sheriff, to go speak with Jackie Figueroa and Trish Nettinger about a pool of employees that they pull from. She had described to me there was a different way and different terminology that this could be set up so it could be doable. But also, as a Queensbury representative, we do have businesses in Queensbury that are providing this service. I'd like to see in other counties how this works, but the concern has been if we started this back then and COVID hit and people weren't coming in, it sounds as if this employee, if it was created as a part-time, might still be on the payroll without having those people coming in to get the fingerprint service. So the question became, is there a different pool of employees that he could pull from in the same way that they do some other civilian positions? But the way it was created is that only a patrol officer would be able to do this. So those were all the questions we had back then, and then also what the charge would be. And I know, Sheriff, you did a good job at saying, you know, this is as people came in and had these appointments, we'd make a little bit of revenue. My bigger concern here isn't just about this discussion. It's that it was a referral item. I think if you want to put it on the agenda as an action item going forward, what would be nice is the public would have an opportunity to also weigh in, particularly those businesses that may offer the service. And I think that would be the right thing to do. Maybe they would look at this as a welcome change. Maybe they wouldn't, I don't know. But those were some of the questions in the data that we were missing previously. So, Sheriff, I again appreciate the idea. I think that it's worth talking about, but I really would like to see some of those questions formally answered, especially for our community members.
Thank you, Supervisor Seaver. Supervisor McGowan, no question?
No, I'm good. I think Craig,
Correct. Supervisor Leggett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Security of the individual coming in to get fingerprints is one of the big issues that the sheriff is trying to address. And the other businesses that are in the community seem not to be able to provide as comfortable of a situation. I think that was one of the big reasons why the sheriff was pursuing.
Supervisor Scheffler?
Thank you. As one of the members of this sitting committee, I have had the opportunity to be fingerprinted for a position that I've had. And it was done in Westchester County, and it was done by the police department. I will tell you up front that I felt extremely secure going into the police department, being fingerprinted and knowing that it was going no place else and not being transported for the possibility of something happening to it. The other thing is I will say that the department that I was fingerprinted with also goes into the schools and does fingerprinting of children, does fingerprinting of people for pistol permits, and for whomever else is in need, nurses, and anybody for any other sort of licensing. I think that it's something that we should really seriously consider. I think that it's, I'm disappointed that we haven't been utilizing our sheriff's department in this capacity.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Supervisor Scheffler. In fairness to the committee, I've heard, different comments about the timeline. Sheriff, what I'd like to suggest is that we put this on the next month's agenda for approval.
I'm at a point where I'm done proposing this. We've talked about it. The questions that were most recently raised, again, I've answered them twice. And I don't know if you need it in writing to say that we have a part-time position and what would you do with this person if there were nobody to come in and be fingerprinted? Well, we would do the same thing we're doing all winter with our Marine unit officers. They would stay home and they would not be compensated. I don't understand the reluctance. I said this to you before. I just don't get it. We're trying to do the right thing. If the board would prefer not to do it, we are not going to push. If you want me to send over something in writing, some proposal, I'll do that. But to continue to have meeting after meeting, have the same questions asked and answered, it's frustrating to me.
I think in fairness to you, Sheriff, that we will put this on the next month's agenda. If you could send over some information that has been requested in writing, and we'll either give it a thumbs up or thumbs down and put this issue to rest.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with the agenda. Is there any privilege of the floor? Is there anybody from the floor that has any comments in regards to this particular agenda or any other issues with public safety? If not, we'll move on. Mr. Lehman, is there anybody from the public that would like to address the agenda for today's meeting?
Hello, Supervisor Diamond. There is no comment on YouTube as of now.
Okay, good. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Scheffler. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.